y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. Started with today's video, I just wanted to say hi to all of the new faces that have joined me over here on my channel. I know that a lot of you have probably watched Olive from a Book Olive's most recent video. There's 10 booktubers to watch and I was included in that, so thank you again, Olive. I really appreciate your support as well as just including me in that video because you didn't have to do that, but thank you. And I also wanted to say thank you so much to everyone that has liked, commented and subscribed. It really means a lot to me. You guys have no idea. I never thought that I would get past 100 subscribers when I first started my channel, so the fact that I'm already at 600 means so much to me. So y'all are real ones and I appreciate that. So because of that, I will be hosting a giveaway very soon. I will be posting all of that information on my Bookstagram though, that way you can be one of the first people to get the information on the giveaway. But guys, I finally have a community tab now. I finally have a community tab, finally. So I will be posting a lot more like real-time posts and information in that tab. So once I do get all of my details together for this giveaway, I will be posting it over there. So definitely make sure you're subscribed and definitely make sure you follow me on Bookstagram so that way you do not miss out on this giveaway, because I will be picking multiple winners. Yes, you heard that right, multiple winners, because y'all showed out. Y'all all showed out and y'all showed love to my content and I appreciate that. So I want to give back. I'm going to break this up by genre and I will definitely leave timestamps down below in the description box so that way you can just jump around to whatever sections you want to watch. But the first one that I'm going to start off with is historical fiction / miscellaneous. So the first book that I have here is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and guys, it is finally happening. I'm finally going to get around to reading this book. I have said multiple times that I really want to pick this back up again, but I just haven't had the time to do it, and it's finally going to happen in March. I did mention this in some of my other videos, but I did read a sample of this on my iPad and I was actually really engaged in the story, so I decided to pick up a physical copy and I just love this edition. It is stunning, but I did decide to pick up a physical copy so that way I could annotate it and keep up that way. The only thing that I know about this is that this is a Greek mythology retelling, and I think it follows the story of Patroclus and his time during the war and all of that other stuff. So I'm not really big into Greek mythology. I don't really read that many books that focus on Greek mythology, so I have never read Homer or the Iliad or the Odyssey, none of those books. So I am a little intimidated going into this one, but I'm still gonna give it a try because so many people that have read this book and that loved it said it was phenomenal. It was heartbreaking, but it was so beautiful. And I know that Madeline Miller is a very prominent author because of this book. This one actually won the Women's Prize, so that's really cool to see. I know that she is coming out with another book that focuses on Persephone, so we'll give this one a read and see if I like it and her writing style, and if I end up of course liking it, then I definitely will look into those other books that she's written. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this one finally. I don't know how it's going to go. I know that a lot of people that have read it said it emotionally destroyed them and to have my tissues ready, so I'm really not ready to go back into that headspace of reading a sad book. But I need to cross this off of my TBR because I just want to know what happens and I want to be able to join in on the discourse. So yeah, really excited to read this one at some point in March. And the next book that I have in this historical fiction / miscellaneous category is Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. So like I mentioned in some of my other videos, I am participating in Mary from Mary Among Stories Bronte Along, where we have to read books written by the Bronte sisters throughout the year. And so March's pick will be Agnes Grey. The only thing that I know about this one is that Agnes Grey is supposed to represent the many 19th century women who worked as governesses and suffered daily abuse as a result of their position. So this is probably going to be very heavy, very emotional, and also again critiquing social commentary, specifically in the 19th century. I've never read anything by Anne Bronte or Emily Bronte before. I'm interested in reading this one and also seeing how Anne's work compares to Charlotte's work. I have only read one book written by any of the Bronte sisters, and that is Jane Eyre, written by Charlotte Bronte. So I only have Charlotte's writing style to go off of, but I am curious to see again how this story and Anne's writing style and, you know, storytelling measures up to Charlotte's, because Jane Eyre is one of my favorite classics. It is very good. I really enjoyed that book, so I can't wait to see how this one goes. So now we're gonna move into romance, and I do have quite a few books that fall into this category because y'all know me. So the next book that I have here is Tokyo Ever After by Miko Jean, and another cover that is absolutely stunning. So this one is actually going to be my selected book for Books and Lala's Buzzwordathon. I think the prompt for March is reading a book that has a location in the title, so Tokyo Ever After. I've also had this one on my bookshelf for a very long time. From what I've heard, this is actually a Princess Diaries retelling, and like most people, I love the Princess Diaries. The first one is the best one in my opinion, but I do love that movie and I do love that franchise, and it's honestly one of those comfort movies for me. So I'm really excited to read this one. This book actually follows a young woman named Izumi, I think her name is, and she lives, I think, in the States with her mother, and it's pretty much always been her and her mom on their own. But one day Izumi ends up, I think, finding out that her father is actually like the Prince of Japan or the King of Japan or something like that. And so she somehow, I think, ends up getting in contact with him, and he asks her to come to Japan and live with him for a while, so that way she can be prepared to, I think, one, take the throne, but also so that way she can learn more about her heritage, her culture, and also form an actual relationship with her father. So when she ends up going to Japan, she takes this very seriously, and she actually wants to inherit the throne. So she does everything in her power to make sure that she's being respectful, also just trying to, you know, learn the lay of the land essentially of Japan. And while she's there, of course, there are people that are not happy about her arrival. I think she does have siblings, and they're not super thrilled that she's there, but she ends up getting assigned this bodyguard, and her and this bodyguard end up having this like whirlwind romance, and the story pretty much takes off from there. So yeah, I can't wait to read this one. I know a lot of people who have read this one have praised it time and time again, and I don't know if this is going to become a series. I'm not 100% sure. It might, but either way, I can't wait to get to this book and see how much this compares to the Princess Diaries. I already see that connection with Izumi living with her mother, you know, and her father not being in the picture. So yeah, I can't wait to see how much it compares to the actual like Princess Diaries. But even if it doesn't, I'm so excited to read it. I feel like this is going to be an interesting take on the princess trope that doesn't really like have a Western lens to it, you know. So I'm really excited to read more about Japan and learning more about like the culture and the traditions. So the next book that I have here, I actually talked about this in my book haul video, and I will be filming a reading vlog reading this book as well as another one, but I do plan on reading Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. So yes guys, I do have the new Colleen Hoover book, and I actually have never read anything by her before. This is going to be my introduction into her work, and I'm really excited because I know a lot of people love Colleen Hoover, and I want to see if I'm going to be one of those people. This story actually follows a woman named Kenna who was recently released from prison, and now with her being released, she's trying to reconnect with her 4-year-old daughter, but the people that are taking care of her daughter do not want Kenna around. They don't want her really like being a part of her daughter's life because I'm assuming of her past. And so while Kenna is trying to navigate that and deal with that, as well as just readjust to society, she comes across this man named Ledger, who is a bar owner of this like local bar in their town. But because Kenna has her own past and demons she's facing, and Ledger also has his own demons and past he's facing, they are trying to keep their budding romance like on the DL because they suspect that a lot of people won't be happy that they're together. So they're trying to, you know, figure that out while also trying to come to terms with like their past and facing their issues head on. And the story pretty much takes off from there. So I know a lot of Colleen Hoover's books have a lot of, you know, real life issues involved in them, and I know she doesn't only just focus on the romance, she also incorporates real life issues into them. I know that there can be quite a bit of trauma throughout her books, so I don't know where this is going to go, and I don't know how this is going to play out, but again, really excited to read it nonetheless and see if I do become a co-host stan. I'm not sure if I'm going to read this one first or if I'm going to read her other book first. I probably should read this one first, and it is Ugly Love, so I probably should read this one first since this came out before this one, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not really sure yet. Either way, I will be filming a reading vlog where I read both of these books, and again, it's kind of like an author taste test and seeing if I actually really like Colleen Hoover's writing style and her storylines and all of that. So yes, really excited to read both of these. So Ugly Love follows these two people named Tate and Miles, and I think they're like involved in this like toxic relationship, and that's pretty much all I know. I will definitely report back to you guys and let you know what I thought about both of these in that vlog, but also in my March wrap up, so stay tuned. So the next two books that I have here for romance, I actually don't have the physical copies of them, but another book that I plan on reading is The Score by Elle Kennedy. So I have been reading the Off-Campus series for like a couple of months at this point. I am really taking my time with this one, and I don't know why, because there are so many other books by Elle Kennedy that I have to get to. I know she has a whole like Briar U like spin-off series, I think, when it comes to the Off-Campus series, so I need to catch up like for real. But this one I have been reading like on and off. I think I'm about 14% into this book right now, so not much has happened, but I am enjoying it so far. And for those of you who do not know, the Off-Campus series is a like YA/college series that focuses on I think it's four, that focuses on 4 hockey players, and they each have their own storyline. And so the first book is called The Deal, and the second book is called The Mistake, and then the third book is called The Score. So I have read The Deal and The Mistake already. So I gave The Deal I think 3.5 stars, and then I gave The Mistake 4 stars. The Mistake was my favorite out of the, you know, ones that I've read so far. So because The Score is the third book in the series, I don't want to give too much away if you haven't read the other 2 books. They can, I think, be read as standalones, but it is more fun to read it as a series in my opinion. but this does follow one of the other Briar U hockey boys named Dean, and Dean is known as the like campus playboy. He is usually with a new girl every day of the week, but he ends up meeting his match because he hooks up with this other girl. He hooks up with this girl named Allie, who appeared in the other off-campus books, and they hook up, and Dean can't get Allie out of his head. He can't understand why he is so wrapped up in her, but as you guys can probably imagine, he more than likely ends up feeling, you know, Allie, and the story pretty much takes off from there. So I am enjoying it so far, even though I'm only 14% through. Allie is actually one of my favorites when it comes to the off-campus series. I really liked her when I read The Deal, because she is a best friend of somebody that was in The Deal, and I really liked her character, so I'm glad that she has her own story. Can't wait to see her and Dean's character development, as well as just watching them fall in love. I think it's going to be so cute and so like I can't wait. And even though I'm only 14% into the book, it's already steamy, okay? Because like I said, Dean is like the campus playboy, so these two, the steam is really, really good. So if you have not read the off-campus series yet, I definitely recommend trying it out because it's actually very entertaining, and I think Elle Kennedy does a great job at truly capturing what it's like to be a college student. It feels real, like it feels authentic, and while the series is a bit dated and there are some like problematic and questionable things, I feel like kind of woven throughout some of the stories, I do really enjoy it, and I'm excited to finish the rest of the series and then also read her spin-offs. And the last romance book that I have here is Through the Storm by Beverly Jenkins. I have been obsessed with historical romances lately, specifically Black historical romances written by Beverly Jenkins. I'm on a hunt and a mission to read all of her books, specifically her standalones, but I want to read pretty much anything I can that was written by her because I love her storytelling and I love the Black history that she incorporates throughout her stories. I will do a whole video on Beverly Jenkins and like a guide to Beverly Jenkins when I read more of her books later on, so definitely stay tuned for that if you're interested. This actually follows a man named Raymond who is trying to gain his inheritance, and he can only do so by marrying someone, but he was once in love with this woman who betrayed him, and so because he was betrayed, he is pretty much sworn off of love and doesn't really have an interest in marrying for love, so he lets his mother choose, you know, who he decides to marry essentially, so that way he can just gain his inheritance. At first this is purely transactional, and so his mother does choose someone, but unbeknownst to him, she chooses the woman that actually betrayed him in the past. So now they are betrothed, and you get to watch them go through the motions of life and marriage and seeing if they can overcome the issues that they had in the past. I feel like this is going to be really good, very like addictive, and I'm probably going to be turning the pages because one thing about me now, I am obsessed with Beverly Jenkins historical romance books. They are so passionate, so steamy, so sexy, and so like fun to read, and I really like the way that she incorporates unknown Black history into her books. There are so many things that I have learned about like my history that I never really knew before because, you know, not being taught about it in school and all that stuff. I'm really excited to get more into her work and to see like how she like built this entire universe when it comes to her historical romances. So yeah. So now moving on to thrillers, I do have two in this pile, and the first one that I have here is The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. So I actually talked about this in my book haul video. I'm not sure if this one is going to go up first or if this video is going to go up first, but either way, I did talk about this briefly, and I actually got this recommendation from my girlie Erin Megan here on BookTube. She talked about this book in her 5-star predictions video, and I was sold, okay? I was sold. Once she gave the synopsis and talked about it a little bit, I was sold. Here in the flap, it says, 3 generations of abused women must navigate their chilling new reality as a mysterious epidemic of violence sweeps the nation in this compelling novel of self-discovery, legacy, and hope. So yes, this does follow a woman named Chelsea who is married and she has kids, but she is in a very abusive relationship with her husband, and she's trying to figure out a way to escape with her kids. And while she's trying to figure all of that out, but also just trying to survive everyday life, there is this epidemic that sweeps the nation and is known as the violence. And basically what happens is if you are infected with the violence, you have these sudden explosive burst of animalistic rage and you attack anyone in your path. So I'm not sure how one even contracts the violence, or you know, if it's like dormant at first and then you just like snap and then attack someone, or if it's just like immediate. I'm not sure. I don't know how this is going to play out, but that plot sounds so interesting and so scary. Cannot wait to dive into this one. As y'all can see, this is kind of thick. I don't know, this is about like 500 and something pages, so this will definitely be like the last book that I get to when it comes to my March TBR, because I try to save the long books for the end so that way I can get through all of my other books. But either way, I do plan on reading this very soon because I'm intrigued. I need to know like how does one contract the violence, and this actually has been classified as suspense and adventure fiction and dystopian fiction. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought that this was going to be classified mostly as horror, but it's not. So I don't know. I feel like there are going to be like themes and odes to horror in this book, because this epidemic is known as the violence, and I can only imagine how gory and grotesque some of these scenes might be. But either way, I'm still here for it, and I'm still really, really excited to read this one. Like, this one is like my most anticipated on my TBR pile for March. So the next thriller that I have here is The Push by Ashley Aldrine. So I have talked about this book multiple times in my other videos, so I won't go into too much depth about this one. For those of you who do not know, this does follow a woman who does have 2 children, and her first child ends up being a daughter, and she doesn't have any connection to that daughter. Like, she doesn't really have a bond with her. She notices that there are weird things that happen whenever she is around the daughter. She thinks that something might be wrong with her, but she also thinks that something could be wrong with the daughter, and she tries to talk to her husband and the doctors about it, but they all look at her as if she is, you know, kind of being dramatic, and they gaslight her, and, you know, just all of those type of themes when it comes to being a woman and motherhood. And so she, you know, tries to like brush it off and tries her hardest to form a connection with her daughter, but she ends up getting pregnant again, and she has a son, and she realizes that her and her son hit it off the bat immediately, and that they are thriving and living life. And then I think the story takes a sinister turn from there. It has been on everyone's 2021 favorites list when it comes to thrillers, so I'm really excited to give this one a read. I know that this is a psychological thriller, and those are my favorites. So yeah, I definitely will report back and let you guys know my thoughts on this book. I think I featured this in my 5-star predictions video. I'm not 100% sure, but if I didn't, I will just say that this is a 5-star prediction for me. And the last thriller slash horror book that I have here is Cherish Farah by Bethany C. Morrow. So I know you guys have probably seen a few people talk about this book in like anticipated videos and 5-star prediction videos, and I actually also got this recommendation from Erin Megan. I just go to her for like mostly thriller and horror recommendations because we just have the same taste for the most part. So I got this rec from her, and again, another book that I'm really excited to read. I actually requested this as an e-arc from the publisher, and I was actually approved for it, so I will be reading this very soon before it expires in my NetGalley shelf. This is actually classified as a social horror, and it has been coined as Get Out meets My Sister the Serial Killer. I have watched Get Out. It is a very great movie. Jordan Peele to me is a fantastic director and screenwriter, and so I pretty much try to watch anything he produces and puts out. But I have not read My Sister the Serial Killer, but I have heard people talk about it and say that it was really good, so I might give it a try after I read this one. I don't know. This does follow 2 black girls. One of the black girls is more like middle class, and the other one I think is like actually like rich, like she's like part of the 1% essentially, but they are good friends. I think they're actually 2 of the only black girls like in their town, so they are like friends. And the black girl who is middle class, she actually ends up facing like unexpected financial hardship to the point where I think her family's house is on the verge of foreclosure. So because of that, she's trying to figure out a way to pretty much keep up with the Joneses and still like reap the benefits of being wealthy. And she decides to infiltrate into the other black girl's life because the other black girl was actually adopted by a very rich white family, and so she decides to try to finesse her way into that world so that way she could like try to reap the benefits. I don't know how she's gonna do that, but she tries to. And once she finally, I think, like infiltrates, she realizes that things are not what they seem, and there's something more sinister going on with the family as well as her friend, and the story pretty much takes off from there. So it does sound a little bit convoluted. It's probably the way I'm describing it but that's pretty much what I gathered from reading the synopsis, as well as just watching a few videos about this book. But either way, really excited to read this one. I will read any book that is classified as social horror, because social horror and like just social commentary in books is just always a great time. I love when authors critique what's going on in the world. It just makes it more interesting and more fun, in my opinion. So I'm really, really looking forward to reading this book. And the last section that I have here is nonfiction. Now y'all know I have to throw in my nonfiction reads because I'm trying to read as many nonfiction books as I can. I did make a 12 nonfiction books to read in 2022 video that I will link up above in the cards or in the description box down below, so be sure to check that out. But I need to read some of those books off of that list as well as just in general. So the first nonfiction book that I hope to get to in March is The Power of Moments: Why Certain Experiences Have Extraordinary Impact by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Like I mentioned in that other video, I'm interested in learning about the psychology behind certain things, and this book specifically focuses on why we put weight and pressure on certain moments throughout our life and milestones. So for example, why is it so impactful when we get our first apartment, or when we get our first job, when we get married, or when we, you know, meet our best friend, etc. So I just think that that sounds so interesting, and I love learning about new things. I'm not in school anymore. I do try to read read books that like teach me things as well. So I am really excited to read this one and see, you know, kind of where it goes and if it actually gives like scientific, you know, information about why we put certain weight and pressure onto these moments. This does have a very good standing on Goodreads. I think this is rated like 4.1 or 2 or whatever on a Goodreads. So it does have a pretty high rating, which is really interesting to see when it comes to nonfiction. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. Last nonfiction book that I have here is Will by Will Smith. So as y'all know, I'm a Philly John through and through, okay? And you know, The Fresh Prince has been a part of my life since I was a kid. That was one of my parents' favorite shows, and of course a lot of the people in Philly and just in general watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I have been obsessed with Will Smith and, you know, pretty much his endeavors ever since I watched that show. So I really wanted to pick this book up to just, one, read more about Will and his life, and to also just see how life was like for him growing up in West Philly during that time. I'm a big fan of memoirs. I usually always read like celebrity memoirs because I just find the lives that people live, especially celebrities, is so fascinating. So I can't wait to see what he talks about in this book. I have heard so many great things about it, and I actually picked up the audiobook because I read The Meaning of Mariah Carey a couple of months back, and I actually had the physical book and I was reading it that way, but I decided to switch to the audiobook because MC narrates it herself, and it was phenomenal. Moving forward, that if I read a celebrity memoir, I need to research and see if they have an audiobook because it is 10 times better. So I do have the audiobook for Will. I'm excited to read it. My boyfriend and I have been binge watching Bel-Air, which is the reboot of The Fresh Prince, and y'all, it is amazing. If you have not watched Bel-Air yet, please make sure you do. I am on a campaign to get any and everybody to watch it because it is so good. This is how you make a reboot, okay? These other writers and Hollywood in general need to take notes because this is how you make a reboot and put a modern take and a modern spin on it. It is so good, and I love the fact that it's more so a drama retelling versus just like a comedic and all jokes type of retelling. Now don't get me wrong, nothing will ever compare to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the OG, okay? Like nothing will ever compare. But Bel-Air is really good, and I think Jabari Banks, who's also a Philly native, makes a great Will. So if you have not watched Bel-Air yet, definitely make sure you check it out. It is on Peacock if you have that streaming service, but I just had to plug it because it is so good. Last book that I have, I actually don't have the title of it because this will be a book club pick. I am a part of a book club, and I actually picked the book for this month, which is February. So we're currently reading 7 Days in June, but once we host our next meeting, I will have to pick someone else to pick another book for March. So I don't know what that book is going to be yet, but I just wanted to add that in here so that way when you guys watch my March wrap up, you'll like understand why that book was not in this video. So yeah. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I hope to get to in March. Now, of course, because it's me, I will be reading more books that are not on this TBR list because I just find new books every single day. Really excited for this March TBR. There are so many anticipated reads on this one, specifically The Violence. I cannot wait to get to that one and see how that all plays out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me my channel out. And please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!